I'm Paula, and this is Knitting Pipeline Extra. I'm not sure what number it is. You'll see it when you look at the title. I have so much knitting and quilting and sewing to share with you today. I haven't recorded since the end of February, which sounds like a really long time, but I think it's actually about 6 weeks. And so a lot happens in that time. I'm going to do knitting first and then have a little sewing, actually embroidery, and then I'll do quilting. So if you look below, I will have when the times are for those various segments, in case you're not at all interested in knitting. Although I think you should be, of course. I live in central Illinois with my husband. We're empty nesters. And he's a maker too. He makes things with wood mostly. Okay, so get this out of here. Sorry if that zipper was loud for those of you who have earbuds in. And my buttons are clattering. Okay, first, let me talk about what I have on. I'm wearing my new Lush cardigan by TinCanKnits. I've made this cardigan before, and you've probably seen me wear it on the show if you have watched it before. And thank you if you have watched the episodes previous to this. And I don't know if I said welcome to the newcomers as well. So this is by TinCanKnits, and it has a lace, as you can see, a lace yoke. It's an interesting construction because it starts in the middle of the back. You knit the lace around to the front and knit the lace around and then pick it up. And I liked my first one so much that I made another one. The yarn is Quince Co Phoebe in the Andromeda colorway. And it is a tonal, so you can sort of see these striations, variations of color. The buttons are from Supplies and Sundries, or Supplies and Sundries on Etsy. I really like these. They're like mother of pearl buttons, and they were very reasonable. Got 9 of them on here, which is maybe one too many, but it's okay. The only thing is, you'll notice the sleeves are a little short. I don't know how that happened, but I'm going to fix it, which is an easy fix because this is top down. So what I will do to fix that is I'll, above the ribbing, because there's no shaping from the elbow on down. So above the ribbing, I will probably snip a stitch and pick out one row, knit down an inch or two, and then Kitchener or graft the ribbing on. I could knit the ribbing over again. I have plenty of yarn to do this. I don't know how this happened because usually I knit the sleeves too long. I might have been overcompensating. The funny thing is that the sleeves aren't the same length either. One of them is longer than the other, which could be okay for me because my right side is larger than my left side. My right arm is probably longer than my left arm. However, it's flipped around, so it makes it even worse that the right sleeve is a little shorter. So anyway, a little bit more work on this, but it is considered done in my book. Again, that is Lush Cardigan by TinCanKnits in Quince Co Phoebe, which is a DK weight. A wonderful DK weight. I absolutely love the Phoebe. It's 100% wool, not superwash. Okay, I have an audio podcast. I don't think I mentioned that at the beginning. It is called Knitting Pipeline, and that is also the title of my blog, which you can find me there. And I am Prairie Piper on Ravelry. In I think it was episode 304 of the audio podcast, I talked about a pair of socks that I made for my husband. They're almost finished. Here's one. It just needs a toe. And here is the other one, and it is past the gusset. The pattern is Simple Skip Socks by Adrienne, and Skip is spelled S-K-Y-P. She pronounces it Skip. I've made this many times before. Not many times. Well, 3 or 4 times, I think. And then she has a simple, or a skip rib sock as well, plus other sock patterns. But I love this pattern. It has a little herringbone look to the stitch pattern. I'm not going to try to get a close up because, yeah, usually they don't focus, and it kind of makes me crazy when I'm watching podcasts and they do that. And yeah. Anyway, what happened here, this is Socks That Rock Lightweight. And I was this far when I suddenly thought maybe because the yarn is thicker than most fingering weights, that it might not fit real well. So I asked my husband to try it on, which he did, and he actually could not get the sock on his foot because the instep is too small, which was very disappointing because I really wasn't enjoying them all that much. The problem is that I think I should have been knitting on a size 1 instead of a size 0, which is what I normally do. But because the yarn is a little thicker and it's very tightly plied, which I enjoy. I like socks that rock lightweight, but anyway, I need to decide what to do. I think what I'm going to do is take this one back, the shorter one, back to the heel, lengthen the heel flap, and then see if it fits him. And if it does, then I'll just have to keep going. I think I have had a very generous offer of someone who said that she would knit it up on, if I don't want to continue, she would knit it up on her sock machine. And that's very tempting, but I think I'm going to try this first because it's been in timeout for a little bit, and I think that I'm beginning to come around to fixing it. The next project is my fall hat quartet. This is a pattern by Green Mountain Spinnery, and Angie, I better check my time. Okay, it is recording. Angie, my friend Angie, and I were at Rhinebeck, and we went into the Green Mountain Spinnery booth, and they had these hats showing. There were 2 different colors. We decided to buy we each bought the pattern, which was in paper form, and it's called the Hat Quartet-Fall, designed by Melissa Johnson. And the yarn is Green Mountain Spinnery Music, spelled M-E-W-E-S-I-C. It has a little silk, and I don't remember the content exactly of the yarn. But it was color work all the way, which I enjoy. It has a corrugated rib, and I'm not going to put on because my hair's still wet, and it would ruin my very carefully coiffed hair. But yeah, I enjoyed the colors. I don't have a lot that I can wear this with, so I might end up giving it away, but I can't keep everything I make. It's kind of, yeah, it's overload if you do that. But when you knit as much as I do. But I enjoyed it. It was a weekend project. I will say that there are some variations to the pattern because I misread the chart, but it works. It's fine. And yeah, that was a fun pattern. I think Angie and I both have enough. Well, we split the yarn. There were 4 colors, and we each bought a full skein of one color, the green, and then we split the other 2 colors, and that made it go from like a $60 hat down to a $30 hat. But I think we could each get another hat out of it if we wanted to, so that makes it, you can't think that way, really. You have to think of the fun factor. Okay, a couple of shawls behind me. One is my own design called Skagen, or Skagen shawl. It's named for a place in Denmark. It is published by Berocco, and I think it was in January that came out. I talked about it in the last episode, but I didn't have a sample to show you because I had sent my sample to Berocco. I can't really see in my screen to see how I'm styling this, but you'll have to use your imagination. Anyway, this is done in Berocco Remix, Berocco Remix Light, which is a combination of a whole lot of stuff, including some recycled fiber. And it is so comfortable, and I enjoyed knitting with it. I don't even think it has any wool in it. I think it's silk and cotton and linen, but it'll be a super comfortable shawl for spring and summer. We've had the craziest weather, as most people have had. Yesterday it was almost 80. Today it's going to be around 70. But 3 days ago it was 20. So you never know. A week ago today it got down to 14. So anyway, it's an asymmetrical shawl with a lace pattern, but it's easy to knit. And once you get the repeat down, which doesn't take long at all, it goes very quickly. I enjoy these asymmetrical shawls. It took me a little while to come around to them, but one of the main, well, 2 of the main advantages are that you never have that many stitches on your needle. The most you have is the length of this, and I don't even remember what it was, but it seems like 120 something. And also you can use all the yarn. This, I used a little more than one skein of yarn because I knit it in a slightly larger gauge than I did the original sample. If you knit 2 gauge, you can do it in 1 skein, a Berocco Remix Light. But I wanted to do the full pattern repeat on the lace, so I did it that way. And then the other shawl up here, I talked about this the last time I did a video podcast, but I hadn't knitted it yet. I'm fairly certain. I hope anyway. But if you're seeing it again, sorry, but I think I just had the yarn at that time. I'm fairly certain. So this is the Nessus Everything Shawl by Jala Spiral of Knit Circus Yarns. This is a traditional top-down triangular shawl. It is done in 2 different skeins of Knit Circus yarns, 1 gradient and 1 speckle. And you alternate the colors. You don't have to cut the yarn every time because it's just every 2 rows. And I generally wear it like this. It also has the longer ends. And then I like to tie it in the front and then sometimes put it over to the side. Again, I can't really see what I'm doing. I think it's partly because my glasses, I need a new prescription. Okay, now you can really see how one of those sleeves is not the same length, but anyway, I think you'll forgive me. So this, everywhere I wear this, I get so many compliments. People just comment on it all the time, knitters and non-knitters, and I thoroughly enjoyed making it. And again, that is called the Kindness is Everything Shawl. And did I say it's a free pattern too? So get your yarn from Knit Circus and try that. At the Knitting Pipeline Georgia retreat, I might have to take the sweater off because I keep colliding with the, my buttons keep hitting the table. But at the Georgia retreat, which I host outside of Atlanta, Georgia in the spring, someone showed a way to wear shawls that I had never seen before. So she took the long end and just tied it like this, just one loop or knot in it, and then draped it around, and then pulled the end through that loop and then tighten it up. And I thought that was a great idea. You could fiddle with it a little more so it would actually look good. But yeah, there you go. With the Skagen shawl, you can see it. I thought that was fun. Fun way to do it. Maybe that'll keep my buttons from hitting. That was my ring. So, okay. And the color of this, I forgot to say, is called Mist. There's some beautiful colors in Berocco Remix Light. Okay, now we get to really fun stuff because my nephew and his wife are having a baby in July, and my family's quite small. I only have 2 nephews on my side of the family, so I go a little overboard when there's going to be a baby, the first one anyway. I don't go as overboard later, although I don't know why, but so this one, sorry, I'm going to back up a little bit because there's going to be a better transition if I do this a little differently. I was talking about Knitting Pipeline Georgia. All right, sorry. But I want to show you this bag I bought from Jan Smiley. She's Jan Smiley Bags. And now that I've shown it to you, I can actually start using it. But she calls this the Boxy Tote Large Project Bag. It is linen, canvas, and from Japan. It has an interior 2-part pocket, and then it has these interior ties. They're leather, so you can tie this, and then it kind of folds like a bucket a little bit. There were only 4 of these on her table at Georgia, and I beelined. I could see them from the table, so I went right over, and She had a lime color green one. I was really tempted to get that one, but I ended up with the more conservative route. But it's just beautiful. This almost looks like a wool bottom, and I really love the bag. It was my one purchase at the market, actually. I bought a little crochet hook, but that was pretty much it. And then Kay, who has Bead Sisters bag and the Bead Sisters podcast, gave me this little, she makes bags, she dyes yarn, naturally dyed yarn, which is beautiful. And she gave me this little tote with a little project bag with 2 handles, and I've been using it a lot here at home. I have in it my Curious Handmade Mystery Cal. I've kept up with the clues. Tomorrow we should get clue 3. So I'm not going to really show the thing. You're not going to be able to tell anything by the way I'm going to show it. But if you want to look away, if you're doing the mystery cal, you want to look away. But I like my colors are, and mine is scrappy. I've used, I think, already 4 different yarns, and there's a lot of knitting in this shawl. I will say, usually with a mystery cal, I can keep up with maybe 2 to 3 days of knitting and then do something else. I've pretty much been working on this most of the time because it's going to be a large shawl, but it fits perfectly in this little bag so far. So that is Bead Sisters. And maybe by the next podcast, well, surely by the next podcast, I will have that shawl done. Okay. Now, one more thing before I get into the baby stuff, because I wanted to show you my husband. This is one of my husband's sweaters that I made. I used to make these, well, I still do. In this one, I just used a laundry pen on purchased binding, and I have For Bob Love P 2002. So this sweater is several years old, and he wears it a lot. So I noticed he was putting it on recently, and I noticed that the elbow on one side was so thin I could see light through it. So I said, be careful taking that off. I want to fix the elbow. So I darned the elbow. I will, I think, knit elbow patches. The other elbow was fine, but I'm going to go ahead and do that. But the reason I have this out here is, well, you can see here, I've already repaired the neck one time because he wears his sweaters out a lot because of the beard. It chafes at the sweater. So I can take this out and reknit the neck. And then I saw when I got this that he needs a new cuff. So I always keep some yarn from a sweater left over. Now in this sweater, I was using scraps from different yarns. It's mostly Blackberry Ridge Woolen Mills, but I didn't have any of this color that the sleeves were in. So I did have to use the plain brown instead of that. But you know what? Look. So it's not the same yarn, but here's the patch right here, the darning. And I think it's not perfect. I'm not the greatest darner in the world. And like I said, I probably will knit elbow patches for it. But darning imperfectly is better than no darning, in my opinion, because you are saving the sweater. And he loves this sweater. I mean, he wears it out in the yard and he wears it all the time. He loves his sweaters. He's due for some new sweaters, by the way. But anyway, I wanted to encourage you to fix things if they start getting holes. Most people don't wear holes through their sweaters, but he does. And yeah, so that is, okay, now I'm really ready to move on to the baby things. First, let me show you the box that I have these in. I was at Joann Fabrics one day, and they had their boxes on sale, and then an additional 20% off the 40%. So I bought this one, and I'm really glad I did. So in it, I have a couple of gifts for the little new one in our family. This I'm so enamored with. Look at that. I mean, wouldn't love to get this sweater. This is from Susan B. Anderson's Kindred Knits. Trying to keep the glare off a little bit. and it's the basic baby cardigan. If you don't have this book, Susan had a video podcast a few days ago, and she said the book is on sale in her Ravelry shop. It's published by Quince Company, and I think she has the rights back to it now. You can get the ebook in her Ravelry shop for $10. This is the greatest value because not only do you have this basic baby cardigan, which you can riff on if you want. You could add a little color pattern. You could add stripes and do anything you want with it. There's an adorable hat that I'll show you soon. There's a little Ampere waist version, which I have made before too. I took the class that Susan teaches on this at SSK. There's a little hooded cardie, a blanket, a doll sweater for American Girl or 18-inch doll. And then in the back, there's From Child's Tea to Cardie in 10 easy steps. So you can take a t-shirt and make any size you want of the cardigan. So again, that is Kindred Knits, Knitting for Little Ones, Near and Far by Susan B. Anderson. I love Hannah Fettig's Cradle Cardigan, and I have used that as my go-to pattern. I still will make that one. But I have to say, I think this one is so adorable. And I used vintage buttons. It is knitted in Quince Company Lark, which is the yarn that everything in the pattern book calls for it. So it's worsted weight. This is the Glacier colorway. And I'm going to try to, well, maybe not, but, well, not too bad. There are the buttons. I don't know how well you can tell that they're vintage buttons. They don't match perfectly, but they look good together. One of the things I love about this little sweater is that there is some neck shaping. The neck comes down in the front. A lot of baby patterns don't have any because people think babies, well, they don't have necks, but they do. Little ones, little short ones. But I think it does keep the sweater from coming up too close to their chin. And I think it just looks so sweet and precious. I did the 3 to 6 month size because the baby is due in early July. So I felt like they're probably not going to need a wool sweater until September. And so that's that. And of course, the colors look great with the little box. And I don't necessarily knit all little boy sweaters blue, but I happen to have this left over from another project of mine. Okay, now, are you ready for the cuteness factor? Because it's going to get shot up really over the roof right now. This is the hat in the book. It's called Leaf-Topped Baby Hat. It looks huge in the camera frame right now, or the phone frame, but it's just a simple stocking cap, and then you make this little stem with 3 leaves on it. I striped it because I didn't have enough of the blue to do the whole thing, but it ended up I had the Audouin colorway from Quince in Lark as well, and so it's sort of a heathery color, and it looks really good with the buttons. It's basically the same color as the buttons on the little cardigan. And then I just striped it every 3 rows, it looks like, or 2 to 3 rows, I'm not sure. And of course you can fold up the little brim. I mean, seriously, that is so adorable. I just absolutely love it. So cleverly done. And yeah, Susan always does a great job. Then I made the Antler Cardigan, which is by TinCanKnits. I've made this for myself, you might remember. And this is in the 6 to 12 month size. It also has vintage buttons, but these are some that I purchased at Stitches Midwest a couple of years ago, which is always fun to be able to use those. The back of the sweater has the cable on it. This is done in Quince Company Lark as well in the Audouin colorway. It's actually the same yarn I used for my antler sweater. So I already knew the gauge and I didn't do a gauge swatch for that because I had recently knitted the same yarn, same pattern. So anyway, it's a baby sweater. It's a swatch in itself. Well, then of course there had to be a hat to go with that. So I did the Antler hat. Should fit around the same time, maybe not, you never know with these things. This one is going to have a pom-pom on it, but I have to make the pom-pom. I wanted to wait because I decided to make the antler hat for my nephew the the daddy. So this looks huge, but I put it on my husband and it does fit. He does have a big head though, but in the pattern they show the cuff is turned up. So I'm almost done with this. I just have the decreases to do, and I'm sure I have enough to make a pom-pom for the little one. I'm not going to put a pom-pom on the father's hat because I don't know. I don't think that he would like it. But the decreases on this pattern are really cleverly done. So you maintain the cables as you go up, and then it just kind of goes very naturally to the top. And I'm on the decreases now on the adult hat. So I better get busy actually, finish the hat, make the pom-pom, put a couple little labels in that these do need to be hand washed. I struggle with that because I know that people want things they can throw in the washing machine. However, my nephew is a woodworker and I think he will appreciate the natural fibers. And also I don't think it's as hard when the items are small, and I plan on showing them when we go down there to how quickly you can hand wash something. Just fill a sink with water, put a little soap wash in there, we'll wash in there, and just let it sit there and then wring it out and put it on a towel. I mean, that's less time than it takes to clean a frying pan or that has a little something burned on it. So everybody should be able to manage that. Now, when the sweaters get bigger, and toddler and up, there's a little bit more to it. So by then, when they're running around in sandboxes and stuff, I will probably knit with something that's a little more easy care. So the other item in the box, I don't know if you noticed, I already took it out. And this is where I start transitioning to quilting. But I may have to stop the camera, but I'm going to do a couple of things first. So I made let's see if I have all the knitting done first. I do actually have notes today. Yeah, okay. So I made a quilt, baby quilt, and back up a little bit so you can see. There it is. This was a bit of an experiment. It's the Lone Star Quilt by Amy Smart on her blog, Diary of a Quilter. It's a free pattern. I wanted to try a couple of things and I thought, well, I'll try them on a baby quilt. First of all, I was trying to quilt from my stash. So I guess we're starting the quilting segment. I guess you figured that out. And I also have some wool applique coming up. But I decided I had purchased some of this blue and gray polka dot and pattern. It was a fat quarter bundle. Back before I quilted, I was making reusable gift bags so that when I gave a baby sweater, like you saw there, I would put it in a print drawstring bag. And sometimes I'd applique, put the name of the baby or embroider it on there. So if they put it in a diaper bag, we're taking it to daycare or whatever, they would have the little bag. But I sort of quit doing that. So I had this fabric. It was from Joann Fabrics. It's not the greatest, but I also had some leftover of this darling fabric from Fabric Worm, and it's a really nice fabric. And then I had some prints from Connecting Threads. So I managed to do it all with stuff I had on hand, and I used for the backing, I used a flannel sheet. And I used the same flannel sheet for the batting. So there's no lofty batting in here. I'm really happy with the way it turned out. I'm not sure I would do that again. I think maybe just the backing and the front might be enough. I don't know. It feels good though. It's soft. I've washed it and it washed absolutely fine. I washed it and put it through the dryer. I use those shout color catchers, especially when I'm washing a quilt for the first time, and they catch any, but I didn't expect any dye to come off in this because they're all such light colors. But there were two tips that I wanted to share with quilters out there. One is, well, first of all, this isn't the tip, but The baby's nursery is black and white. That's a trend right now. Target has a whole line on it, and that's what they chose. But I did not want to do a black and white quilt. My sister is doing 2 quilts, or has done 2 quilts, and I think they're both black and white. But I did nod to it by doing my signature. The binding I've been using quite a bit, this black and cream binding. But I did want to do a low volume quilt. And when I was putting these pieces together, I wanted more of this lighter. I think this is the one. Anyway, this piece right here, I actually flipped to the wrong side. And I don't think that you would notice it, but I wanted more low volume than what I had in my stash. So I flipped it to the wrong side, and it ended up looking almost like this one, which is on the correct side. It looked too dark to me when it was with the right side out. So that isn't something I thought of. I was reading a quilting blog or something, and I saw that tip that sometimes look at the wrong side of your fabric. And I don't think anybody would notice at all that that is the wrong side of the fabric. I even have to look pretty carefully. And then like this fabric was a backing on another fabric. So there's other things in there besides this fat quarter bundle that I picked up. The other tip I want to give, this is funny because I thought of it myself. I'm sure it's not very original. And I was going to send it in to the magazine, and then I got the next magazine issue and it had this tip in there, but at least I know I thought of it on my own. I usually have trouble remembering which way to press seams on a row of blocks. So I started using my pins. I put a pin in somewhere in the middle of on the side of the block, and I pretend that the pin is an arrow pointing. And that tells me that on that row, I press in the direction of the way the pin is pointing. And then on the next row, it'd be the other way. It's an easy way. You don't have to mark anything, and you don't need a label or anything to remind yourself how to do that. So again, this is called the Lone Star Baby Quilt. I really think that if you're a beginning quilter, this is a really simple pattern to do. There aren't that many seams. They're half square triangles, but they're so big. And it was a good tutorial. It was a pictorial tutorial, not a video one. And I think that it would be easy. And it went together so quickly because the pieces are so big. And I also think it's a good size. It's not so skimpy as some of those other quilts that I showed you. So that one done. Put that over by the baby box here. Then I have a wool applique project. I have another quilt thing coming up too. At the Knitting Pipeline Retreat in Kennebunk, Maine, which is in the 3rd week in September, I have released the information about that. If you're interested, I almost always have always filled up and had a wait list, but usually the wait list people get in. But anyway, the information is out there if you're interested on my blog. You can go there and find it. So we take a little trip to a shop in Kennebunk called Camp Wool. I think we're actually in Kennebunk Port, the retreat is, but then we go into the downtown of Kennebunk. There's a store there called Camp Wool. They have rug hooking, wool applique, some quilting fabric, and some of the wonderful ladies at the retreat went together and bought me a wool applique kit in 2016. I have to admit, it intimidated me a lot because it looked, well, I've never done that much. I've done little things, but I haven't done that much. And yeah, finally, I thought I'm just going to start on it and then just try to do a little bit every day. But once I got started, I don't think it took a little over a weekend. I started it maybe on a Friday and ended it on a Monday. So, yeah, but that was pretty steadily working on it, but even so. Anyway, maybe you want to see it. Here it is. think it's, if you're interested, I'll try to put the origin of the kit, or you can text me, or not text me, personal message me on the blog, or on Ravelry. I'm Prairie Piper, so that would probably be the best way to ask if you're interested. But there were a lot of pieces in here. I don't know if you can see how well you can see, but the wings had more than one piece, and then there were the tiny beaks and these pine cones. These leaves had all little appendages on them because they're supposed to be pine needles. So there was quite a lot of cutting. Once I got all the cutting done and started assembling it, I could see that it was really going great, and I enjoyed it thoroughly. When I did the when I did the finishing on it, I actually used a blanket stitch on my machine to finish off the edges. But one thing I did, I think it called for a blanket stitch on all the pieces, but I did whip stitch, and I'm glad I did. I think it doesn't take away from this at all, and it's a lot quicker for me than blanket stitch. And some of these pieces were just so skinny that trying to do blanket stitch on them didn't even make sense to me. Actually, I didn't do a whip stitch. I did a blind stitch. Yes, I did a blind stitch. So that is my Cardinals in the snow, and or trees, and I probably will hang this during the winter. Well, I will hang it in the winter, but probably not in the summer in my home. So I love that it's wintry, but it'll look good at Christmas, but it's not Christmassy. You could have it up all the time. So thank you, ladies, for the lovely kit. I learned that I should not be so intimidated. But one quick idea that I may forget at another time. This one had tabs that you put in the top binding so that you could hang it on a rod. And somewhere I saw, and I don't think it'd work for this because the tabs are too small, but for miniature quilts, I saw an antique ruler, just a wooden ruler that was used to hold the loops. And I do have, as you know, I have some mini quilts. I haven't put loops on them yet, but I also happen to have an antique ruler or two around the house, so I might do that someday. Okay, now the big quilt that I've made that I'm so excited about. Let's see, I don't think you, well, no, you can't see it, but it just take me a second to go get it. Sorry, I hit the railing there when I went in. This is my latest finished quilt. I forgot the dimensions, but it's pretty good size. I think, well, let's see, I'm 5'3", so it looks like it's about 60 inches. No, maybe 56 inches. It hits me right under my nose. This was a kit. I think I showed you the kit. I got it from Craftsy. When their kits are on sale, I wasn't even sure I was going to make the kit, but I liked the fabric. So I thought, well, the fabric is still a good deal. I get it. It was a jelly roll, and the fabric is called Tailor's Tack. It's kind of a reproduction Civil War. The simplicity of this 16-patch quilt, just, I love it. I love the simplicity of it. And not just because it's easy to do, but it's, I don't know, there's just something about it. When I got it, I started piecing it, I thought I could have done straight line quilting on it. I did not want to do free motion. It's a little bigger than what I like to try to handle on my little machine. I have a very small throat space on my machine, so it's kind of a hassle. There's the back of it. So I decided to send it off to Nancy, who is Grace and Peace Quilting on Instagram, and she has a wonderful quilting blog called Grace and Peace Quilting. So I sent it off to her, and I just let her take free reign with the quilting pattern. She did one, I think it's called Baptist, and it's a swirly pattern. I don't know how well you'll be able to see the pattern. I think maybe you can see it better on the back. Yeah, there we go. And I think it's exactly what this quilt, what this quilt needed to sort of bring it to life. I'm really tempted to do another one of these with different fabric. I have a jelly roll or two in my cupboard. So the only thing is that this used every strip in the jelly roll. And that's a little nerve-wracking because you have not much room for error. So yeah, it used every bit, but I did purchase the backing, and then I had 1 yard of this binding fabric. So I'll talk about that coming up in the next thing. But so anyway, it may still be available on Craftsy, and I forget to mention this, but I am a Craftsy affiliate. So if you go to my blog and you hit the Craftsy link and go to Craftsy, I do get a little referral income from that, and it adds up. So it's a way that you can help the show without spending any extra money, and I do very much appreciate it. If you're new to Craftsy, they have Craftsy Unlimited, which I'm having a ball with. My husband and I both, we're having a ball with it. This is a little side note, but right now we're doing a Instant Pot class. So every night we sit down and watch a 20-minute topic on the Instant Pot, and we've learned so much, and we like that. We finished our healthful eating with Ellie Krieger. We've made quite a few of her recipes. We're doing the Instant Pot. We have another cooking. We seem to like the cooking ones to do together, and I think it's broadened our, kind of gotten us out of a rut of eating the same things. So yeah, we're having fun with that. I'm crazy about this quilt. I was thinking of giving it away, but I don't think I can. I think this one has to stay here. I just like it so much. I would never think of combining all these colors, but when they're in a jelly roll and you know that an expert has figured it out, then it's pretty easy to do it. Okay, let me look at my notes. I have a couple more things I see over there. I have oh yes, what I'm working on now. Almost done with it. Okay, just had to gather a few things over here. My current project is one of these tins. It's called Moda Frivols, Frivol. This is number 5. This is the Petite Prince de French General. I've seen this collection. It's been around for a while, the French General collection. So these come in a tin. I also bought this from Craftsy, and everything you need except the backing is in here. And then apparently people collect these. I got it because it was on clearance on Craftsy, and I have another one of these. I'm not sure what number it is, but it was a gift, and it's blues. It's all blues, I think, and cream colors, which I love that color combination. So this one, they're miniature quilts, not teeny tiny. This is the one. I think it's a little longer than it is wide. So it's, the colors in it are navy and reds, blues and reds. Sorry, I should have taken this sweater off, but it's too late now. I'm almost done. All I have to do are the pieced borders, which I've done. The 2 side borders I've finished, and then I just need to do the top border and then get some, figure out how I'm gonna do the backing and get some backing fabric and binding. It comes with a trifold. Okay, now, I'm not 100% certain I would recommend this unless, well, I'll tell you why. First of all, it was fun. I did enjoy it. I can't say I just fell in love with it. I don't know why. I think I just didn't love all the prints that much, but some of them I did. And there wasn't as much variety as I'd like to have in a miniature quilt. But my main thing is that they say in here right at the beginning, note, because every thread of the red pink squares will be used, we recommend not starching or sizing the squares before cutting. The cutting for the, and this is in bold print, the cutting for the red rectangles and squares is very tight. True. There is no room for error on this. And when you have this many, now you're not cutting individual squares. It's done in 7-inch strips that you sew together, and then you cut it and make your 4 patches. But still, there's a lot of cutting in this. And just as a reminder, there's a lot of cutting. And to not even be able to waste one thread, I mean, the funny thing is that I was thinking, okay, I am going to do this perfectly. I'm not going to make a mistake. And I cut some strips and realized that I had misread the directions and they were all 1/8 of an inch too small. And I was just, yeah. So anyway, all those had to go. Fortunately, I have plenty of this type of fabric because I love the Civil War fabrics. I had no problem going into my stash and finding things that would work. But it was just so, it was like, are you kidding me? The very first pieces I cut. And then of course, you end up with some 4 patches that get a little wonky. And I just think, come on, Moda, seriously, to not have any extra, could you not have put one little 7-inch square in there extra for people to play around with? But no, they didn't. So for that reason, I'm thinking, no, I don't think I'd really recommend this unless there's one that you're 100% just crazy about. I will be when I get this done. I'm pretty sure I'll love it. But yeah, I should finish that soon. It was just a weekend project. My husband was actually gone last weekend. He went out to visit our son in Portland and do some work on his house. So I had, basically I had 3 days here on my own, and I just ate soup and I had fun. So yeah, that's that. Now the last project, I'm just going to talk about this a little bit, and then I think I'm going to do a separate episode on it because it's really fun. And if you decide you want to try this, then I have some tips for you. I decided I was going to, I mentioned this last time, I know, but I decided I was going to make a quilt with a block from every quilt that I've made in the recent history. Now, I made a couple quilts back in the 80s using cardboard and template and a Dover instruction book. Well, it was just a Dover publication, which you might be familiar with. But I've been steadily quilting since 2015. I made 2 quilts in 2010, and then in 2015, when we found out we were expecting a grandchild and I made her baby quilt, I haven't stopped, basically. So I've made a number. I was surprised when I actually started figuring it out. And usually I have a block left over or some blocks left over, and I never know what to do with those. And I thought, well, why not make a quilt that would represent my quilting history? So a block for every big quilt. I'm not going to do a block for every baby quilt except for the ones I made for my granddaughters. But this has been so fun and quicker than I thought it would be because I had stuff. I did a little tutorial on how I'm organizing my leftovers from projects, and I'll either put that at the end of this, probably separate, because I see I've already gone 15 minutes. But this was the first block I did, which is the one that's representing the quilt I just showed you. And I didn't have any strips left, so I used the backing and the binding to represent this quilt. And then I embroidered Taylor's Tack Checkerboard 2018 on it. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and unbutton this so it doesn't, I know it's a little late, but maybe that'll help. Those buttons keep clattering into the table. So then I worked backwards. I started, not strictly, but yeah, then I had blocks left over from a quilt that I had on the video that was for my nephew and his wife for their wedding. That was Tim Holt's Eclectic Elements fabric. And then the quilt that I made for my son and daughter-in-law for Christmas has their names on here and embroidered on, and this was Ballard blocks from Quilt As You Go Made Modern. I'm using the Quilt As You Go technique on these, so they are already have batting on them. Be really simple to assemble them. This is the quilt that I made for my winter quilt, and on this one I made it in August 2017. And then I put a little beginning of a poem that I like so much that is by Oliver Herford. I can't remember. It says, I heard a bird sing in the dark of December. That's the first line of the poem, and I put that at the top. A couple more are a log cabin one that I made. Don't think I've shown you that. Maybe I have. This one I think I showed. I know I did. This one was Blue Lagoon, and that was out of the Jelly Roll, the first Jelly Roll book by Pam and Nikki Lintott. So there are, so far I've done, I think 16 or 18 blocks. Some of them are completely done. Others I just need to do a little embroidery. You might be thinking that's so much, it takes so much time. The embroidery, seriously, if I have 15 minutes, I can usually sit down 15 or 20 minutes, do at least most of an embroidery on there, because you don't have to worry about the back. And the back will be totally covered up when this is done. And when I need to hide ends, I just slide them in between the batting. Also, when you are embroidering on this with the batting, you don't need a hoop. It's stiff. It makes it so quick to do the embroidery. So it's not a huge time investment. And like I said, like on this one, I already had all these 4 patches in with the scraps. So all it was a matter of collecting the 4 patches. This block, all I needed to do was add 2 strips on. It was already done. So it's a great way to use up some of those. Then I got the idea of, I'm calling it my maker's quilt. And this is going to be a quilt that probably only the maker can love, maybe, because I decided to represent all of my making on it. I'm going to have some quilt blocks that will represent knitting. So I think I might, who knows what I'll do. I'll applique a sweater or hat on there, and then I'll embroider highlights of my knitting for that year. I have big plans for the blocks for my granddaughters. There'll probably be a big monogram initial with their name and some representatives of the quilts that I made for them. The sashiko and boro that I did, I think I'm going to put one or both of those in blocks, because people have said, what are you going to do with these? Well, I just enjoy them. I like looking at them. I could put them out, just lay them on a table, but why not put them in the quilt? I think they'll look gorgeous in there. So some of the techniques that I've been using, I'm going to put together a little, it won't be necessarily a tutorial. It'll be more like a vlog, maybe a tutorial. I don't know. I'll show you how I make at least one block or type of blocks. But even if you're not a quilter, you could easily do this, because you could, if you want to represent all you're making. I'm going to try to include my needle felting and my little felted animals and all kinds of things on here. And it's a long-term project, obviously. But then every time I finish a project, I will do the block for that project or combine it with another block. Like I said, I'm not going to do a separate block for every baby quilt that I make, because it's too big, and I'll just put those baby quilts all together, maybe embroider the names on there or something about it. But I'm really excited about it, and maybe I'll just go downstairs and put these on my board. What's it called? Design board. I'll put it on the design board, and you can see all the ones that I've done so far. Yeah, I thought, why not? Why not include all the making? So that's my maker's quilt, and I'll have a separate video coming out on that to show you all the blocks. Yeah, I think I'll just make it separate. Thank you so much for spending time with me, and I hope you've enjoyed seeing this progression of projects that I've made in March and the beginning of April of this year, because I've had a lot of fun with them. Feel free to leave comments below. I can easily answer questions in the comment section. If you leave a question on my blog, I can't really respond to it. I don't know why, but just ask me on Ravelry. You can find me as Prairie Piper. You can find me on Instagram, although I'm not very good at looking at my messages on Instagram. I'll try. And then, of course, the easiest thing is to leave a comment below, and then I can easily answer you there on YouTube. Sorry, just bumped into that. I seem to be bumping into a lot of things, but at least I know that if I have my sweater open at the bottom, I don't clatter the buttons. Well, that's it. Thanks so much again, and I hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.